Alright, so today we are making cheesecake in our Instant Pot, and I'm using a recipe that we found online. I'll link it down below if you want to follow the same recipe. And I'm going to have a few variations, or I'm just going to deviate slightly from the recipe because I don't have exactly what they're asking for, but we're just going to try it. I want some cheesecake, so we're just going to wing it, and hopefully it will turn out edible enough. So the first part of the recipe, it does ask for you to crumble up about 10 graham crackers. We went ahead and did that ahead of time while we were waiting for our other ingredients to come to room temperature. So I'm gonna put these graham cracker crumbs in a bowl, and then it asks for about 3 to 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and you're gonna need a pinch of salt, as well as 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. We don't have brown sugar on hand, so we're just going to use white sugar, and we're just going to put that all in a bowl and mix it up to make the crust. Go ahead and mix that up. Alright, so the next step is to line your spring form pan, and actually I think the recipe we're using is a little bit too much for the size of my pan. This is like a 6-inch, and I think they use a 7-inch, I'm not really sure. But the next step is to line your pan. It says with parchment paper. We only have wax paper, so we use wax paper, and you're gonna put the breadcrumbs down in the bottom of your pan. I'm sure you can put it on the sides as well. It's just really preference how much crust you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and line my bottom of my pan with the amount of crumbs that I want for our crust, and we're just gonna go from there. So we have our crust. We pressed it with a spoon and a small little ramekin to make it all nice and flattened. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the filling. And we're gonna put this in the freezer while we make the filling because the recipe says to stick it in the freezer. All right, so the next step is to mix 2/3 cup of sugar into a bowl and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 2 pinches of salt. And you're just gonna mix that and set it aside. Right, so now we're gonna do the cream cheese portion, and we're gonna need 16 ounces of cream cheese. We're using Philadelphia cream cheese, and it's 16 ounces is 2 of these little boxes here. You're gonna stick it in the bowl, and you're going to just break it up with a hand mixer. They said a hand mixer. We're just gonna use a spatula and some elbow grease, and hopefully that's fine. All right, so now we just kind of broke that up for like a few seconds, and then we're gonna mix in half of that sugar mixture that we just did right before this part. So we're gonna mix in half, and then once we mix in half, once it's well incorporated, we're gonna mix in the second half. Okay. After you mix in the sugar mixture, you're gonna incorporate a 1/2 cup of sour cream.
Do I mix it?
Mm-hmm. Right, you're supposed to also incorporate like 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. We don't have that on hand, so we're skipping it. And we're gonna move on to putting 2 eggs into the mixture, and those eggs should also be room temperature. And ours are mostly room temperature, but it's about 11:26 p.m. right now. We're making this cheesecake, and it's close to midnight, and we don't want to wait for these eggs to be fully room temperature, so we're just gonna roll with it. All right, so now it's time to put our mixture into the pan with our crust, and then we're gonna stick it in the Instant Pot. So let's go ahead and do the first step, get this mixture into the pan, and go from there. If you tap it on the counter, it should remove some air bubbles, and then if you see any air bubbles at the top, you're supposed to like poke it with a fork or like a toothpick to just get rid of the air bubbles. All right, so in your Instant Pot, if you have like a rack, you want to put it at the bottom of your Instant Pot. I don't have a rack, so I kind of just crumpled up like 3 little foil balls just so when I put my cheesecake in there, it doesn't touch the water. So that's what I'm gonna go with, and hopefully it works. And then I am going to put in a cup of cold water, and then you're gonna put your cheesecake in here for 26 minutes on high pressure, and then 7 minutes of natural release. And then I think from there you can remove your cheesecake. So I'm gonna double check the instructions, but starting off, I'm gonna go ahead and put my cheesecake in here and let it cook for 26 minutes. All right, so the pressure cooker is done now. It's been 7 minutes, just kind of doing its thing now. And now I'm gonna release the pressure, and now we're gonna see the results of this cheesecake. I hope it's not cracked on the top, but you know, you never know. This is the first time I've made cheesecake in general, so let's just, you know, see how it turned out. Right now, just release the valve to release the rest of the pressure that's inside the pot. And now that the pin went down, we're gonna open it and see how it turned out. All right, so this is how the cheesecake turned out. It is actually a little bit lumpy on top. It's not like a perfectly smooth surface. And I read that if not all the ingredients were at room temperature, it might come out that way. So it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't have like a crack in it or anything. There is some moisture on the top. Now, it didn't say anything about like covering the top or anything like that. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that moisture. Am I supposed to like clean it up with a napkin? Will it just evaporate on its own as it's cooling? I don't even know. But anyways, I'm gonna let this cool at room temperature, and then I'm gonna take off the spring form pan and continue to let it cool. I'm going to probably chill it overnight just because. Check out the time right now, guys. Can you see this time right now? It is 12:24 in the morning. And our cheesecake just finished, so let's go ahead. I'm hoping it tastes pretty good. I know it's not perfect, but I'm hoping it tastes delicious, but we shall see. It's pretty good.